Alright, so this is sufficiently niche enough that I have looked on the internet and haven't been able to find this, so I figured I would do one of these videos myself. So I've had this truck for about 3 years, and I'm sure that the oil that's inside this case has probably never been changed, or if it has, it certainly doesn't show up in any repair records that came with the truck. So what we're going to do is we're going to release the drain down here, and then let the oil out, and then fill it here via a pump. It's a 80W90 gear weight, and this procedure I'm taking straight out of the Range Rover manual. Spray this down with a little bit of brake cleaner just to get some of this gunk off. I don't know that this ever has been moved, but the idea is just to release the dirt. I mean, this thing faces forward, so anything that's coming underneath the car, dirt, water, whatever, snow, is gonna get into this. So Lord knows if it will actually come open on the first try, but we'll figure it out. Clean it just to get the crap off of it. All right, so let's see if this works. No bueno that way. When all else fails, we'll bring out the big gun. There we go. Okay, good. All right. Now, before we get too far, I'm just going to shoot this up again with Lord knows what's in there, and I don't want it to come back into that gearbox. All right. Alright, there's this bad boy. And that looks milky delicious right there. Delicious.
So I got to switch over to voiceover mode because the mic decided to quit on the phone. All I'm doing here is showing that we're using Fram 80W90 straight up mineral oil, not a synthetic oil. And this is doing the finger test. That's what the inside of the diff looked like. So that's what we were up against here. I don't know how long that oil had been in there, but it was a real mess. So we're going to tighten off the lug nut. We're going to use a somewhere like 60 to 7-year-old torque wrench that belonged to my dad. We're going to torque this down to like 35 pounds. Don't take my word on that. Check the spec sheet. I torqued it down to 35 because I couldn't find a torque value for it. And that is the chocolate milk that was in that front diff. And zoom in on the slow motion pour right here. Isn't that delicious? I don't know how long that oil had been in there. I mean, I bought the truck in June or July of 2020, and I'm sure it hadn't been changed in years. So here we go, just pulling the plug off of the fill hole. That actually came off straight with a 1/2-inch driver, no problem. Came out clean, no shavings, no rust. So it probably had been changed at some point in time in the past, but
that came right off.
Certainly not in the last, gosh, at least 10 years anyway. The good news is that it was pretty full in there. It wasn't anything leaking out, so that was good news. And again, we just sort of poke a finger in there and feel for broken teeth and any shavings, and there weren't any, so that's good. And here we go with inserting the tip of the pump. This is the cheap pump. I recommend you don't go with the cheap pump. I recommend you go with the expensive one. This was about $9. Get the $18 one, much better. And slowly begin to pump the oil into the fill hole until about, I mean, you're supposed to use the specs. I think it's something like 2.07 quarts or something like that. And we used 2 quarts in the front and then 2 quarts again, maybe in a little in the rear. This setup didn't really work so well because the pump didn't screw onto the top of this container. So we had to cut it down a little bit in there, just checking to make sure that it's filling up, and sure enough, that's nice and clean, ADW90 gear oil. And now we're pulling it back out and going to move on to buttoning this side up. Now that we've got the diff case filled, we're just letting it drain out a little bit, and we're going to let that drain to sort of the bottom of that fill hole. And then we're going to button it up, torque it down to 35 pounds, and do this on the backside of the truck. The backside of the truck, the oil was much better, but there only was about half the oil in there that was supposed to be in there. And it didn't look like there were any leaks. It just probably had never been serviced in either ever or in a long, long time. But in all, it took us about 30 minutes per diff to get this done.